Hey everybody, welcome to my suburban oasis. So it is unseasonably warm outside right now. I can hardly believe it. It is mid-December and I am in Michigan where normally we have snow right now and it's super duper cold. My name's Soleil and this is my suburban oasis where we talk about gardening and indoor plants and all sorts of different things. But I wanted to take everybody outside today just to show you around because we had like a foot of snow yesterday. Not that it came down, but we had a foot of snow on the ground yesterday and it is completely gone today. It is really balmy out, if I say so myself, and windy. And so I just wanted to take a minute to talk a little bit about the extreme weather and what it can do to our plants and in our gardens. So let's take a look and see what's going on in my garden while we talk about that. So one of the things that I do in my garden to try to protect from these significant weather changes that we're having is use leaves, and all of the leaves are doing what they're supposed to do in this garden bed, which is starting to break down, but also they're still quite full. We have the toughest months here in Michigan of January and February to get through yet, and so it's really important that I have enough leaf matter to be able to cover the soil completely and make it through. So I think we do. That's definitely going to work out really well there. And then over here, we planted some chard and I had covered up some rosemary because I wanted to see if we could get the rosemary through the winter. It's only hardy down to a zone 7 and we're a zone 5B, as I said. So let's just pull this up and see how it's looking today because it won't be damaged. I think it looks pretty good so far. It's not brown or anything, so we'll put that back down over the top of it. It smells great. I want to make sure I get edges tucked all the way down to the bottom when you cover something up because that's where a lot of cold air will come in. And I also have some chard in the other planters, which is still alive and doing well. We'll see how that does over the next couple of months because it is definitely, like I said, going to get much colder here. One of the things I wanted to show you today is that the Virginia is in its full, beautiful, deep red maroon color. And I think that looks really, really gorgeous. If you are in a warmer climate than mine, it would look even better for you. But I just love being able to see something that's growing in the winter that looks alive and beautiful, and that's one of them. I also planted some kale seeds. I don't know if you remember, but let's check on those as well. We'll pull this row cover up. And it looks like all the little seedlings are still growing along here. I don't know if you can see them. I didn't plant a ton of them, but some of them have come up and they are still alive. I'll have to come back through and check on them in a couple of months. But right now they're about to get very wet because it's going to rain. I think we'll probably get some flooding as well. So it becomes much more challenging when the weather changes so significantly because our soil actually does not feel completely solid or frozen, but it can be this time of year. And if it is when it rains and the snow melts, there's really no place for that water to go and it can cause quite a bit of flooding. But because we just had about a foot of snow melt overnight, I do think we probably will see some flooding in quite a few different areas of our local rivers. So I did put down some leaves over and cover this area with mulch as well, which I think is going to help. I did not have as much over here, so it's not as thick, but also there's not as much protection needed in this garden bed. The nice thing is it also does help with what they call frost heave, where things can come up out of the ground. And I haven't seen any of that yet. What I have seen is some pesky molehills still around my garden, so I know that the mole is still here and is digging through my bed. So here, just to show you how things look after they have died back in my garden, this is the area where I have the Japanese painted ferns, which usually are several feet tall when they're in their full glory. And I have some lungwort and I have hostas, and as you can see right now, it looks like there's nothing there. So this is also a really good time when the snow melts in the winter, if you have snow. If you don't, it's still a good time to take a little walk through your garden and look to see where there's no winter interest, where you have just bare looking ground, to see is there something that you could switch around that would make it a little bit better. Now, speaking of some damage from extreme weather, I made the decision to leave the bloom heads on this hydrangea here. This is a smooth hydrangea, and if you look closely, you can see that the stems are completely bent over. In fact, this one is almost broken all the way through. Now, the reason for that is because prior to getting that foot of snow, we were also getting icy rain, and icy rain is really heavy as it freezes on the plants, and then the snow on top of that simply weighs it down and they get bent over. So I will probably come out and clip those off. I will show you where on one of my panicle hydrangeas I did some emergency pruning to prevent just this from happening. And I think over time what you'll learn is that some hydrangeas are better at handling snow loads than others. And one of those that I find for me is that the lace cap hydrangeas, or these that have, you know, more of the fertile flowers and less of the non-fertile florets, they actually have a little bit more airspace in them, so they're able to handle that load better because it doesn't have quite as much surface area for the snow to catch on. So if you have an area where you get a lot of snow or ice on and off, and I think we'll be getting more ice storms because of the flip-flopping between rain and snow as our climate is kind of changing, it would be good to think a little bit more about using those type of lace cap hydrangeas rather than just maybe mop head or your smooth hydrangeas. Or the other option is just to clip off all of the heads before winter. I love to leave them on for the winter interest, but sometimes that's just not the right thing to do for a garden given your climate. So as you can see, like this is a lace cap as well, Pinky Winky hydrangea, and it is not having any trouble with any damage from the weather. When I got a Christmas tree this year, I always like to pick up some extra greens, and you'll see those throughout the garden. And so I stuck those into this beautiful galvanized tub along with the light, which is the solar light from Gigalumi, and it just looks so beautiful in the evening and at night. Not a whole lot to report on over in this area in terms of the climate and its impact on the garden, but certainly fun to take a look around. You can see we still have lots of red berries and the trees here, these giant honeysuckle shrubs, and they are falling all over and making a mess on the ground, but that's okay. Definitely lots of birds and different animals eating them. These right here are foxgloves, so those stay pretty well evergreen during this time of year. One of the heucheras that looks the best to me right now is the coral, and this is the mega, did I say coral? I mean caramel. This is the mega caramel heuchera. And the colors look really great and the leaves still look really good. And I'll show you some of the smaller regular sized ones in just a minute because I think they look really beautiful as well. And you've seen throughout the garden I have the Hakona Chloe grass, which is, tan, and so that brings a bit of different color to the garden when the snow melts this time of year. And it looks really pretty, I think. When everything is dark and drab, it just kind of pops out. And of course, the pieris look really beautiful right now with their buds. They look even more beautiful, though, I think, when we have the snow around them because of the colors of those buds. They are truly, truly beautiful this time of year in terms of the contrast. And when you see the white of the snow surrounding them, they just stick out and pop. Another type of plant that oftentimes gets damaged by ice storms is the arborvitae. Some of them come as multi-trunk forms, many of them do, and if that's the case, then they tend to split right where the multi-trunks are at the top because the snow and ice comes through in between the two of them, and then they split open like that due to the weight, and you can lose part of them or have problems with them. So for instance, this one right here, I have not seen a double stem on this one, so I think this one is not going to be prone to that, but both of the ones next to it have a double stem. In fact, you can see this one kind of bending over where something has gotten the very top of it. It should be okay though. Over here, I'll show you another, this is the firelight hydrangea, which is more of a lace cap type panicle hydrangea, and that has no damage either. It has a very strong upright branching, and because of the open aspect of these bloom heads, they do just fine. The one I did come out here to prune in emergency was the vanilla strawberry. So this vanilla strawberry hydrangea gets giant bloom heads on it as a panicle hydrangea, and the panicles are huge, and you can see I saw some actually starting to split off because not only was it icy and snowy, it was also incredibly windy. So here we have some panicles here, we have one at the base there, they're coming here, and you could just see all of the branches drooping. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to grab my camera and bring you guys along for that trimming, but what I did was just clip it, for example, on this one right about here, and then they all just popped right back up. And the reason I didn't want to trim them back too far is because I was not trimming for shape or size or anything like that. I was simply trimming to try to protect the branches from further damage. So I won't have a lot of winter interest from that panicle hydrangea this year, and I think next year I probably won't either, because I will definitely be thinking about cutting off the panicles on that before the winter comes. Another one that may need to be cut next year as it gets bigger are the strawberry Sunday hydrangeas, because these, as they have gotten bigger, are starting to get bigger panicles, and these are also very full panicles as opposed to that lace cap type. So those could take on some pretty significant damage as well. And then the berry white hydrangea, which I have over here. And now you can really see my mess over here because the bushes aren't covering it, but such is life. But you can see just how large this panicle is and why it could be a problem in snow, and it just will bend straight down, and then the branch will snap because it's so cold outside and because of the ice, which makes it really stiff. All right, let's take a quick look out in the front yard. I think it's gonna start raining here. So this is a good example of what I believe is a vanilla strawberry hydrangea that I did prune, or not vanilla strawberry, strawberry Sunday hydrangea that I did prune most of the heads off of. If they're small ones, they actually should fare better, so I did leave a few in the front just to have a little bit of interest in the area. I didn't get to cutting back my royal ferns this year, so here's what they look like in the winter time. They too got very well mangled with the snow and the wet. This is a PG hydrangea standard, and it too is doing just fine because of the lace cap effect of its blooms. I have to hold the camera at a little bit of an angle here so it doesn't get covered in water droplets and y'all can still see. So another place where I used some branches is in these two urns, and these were just from the tree farm where we got our Christmas tree, and I just stuck them in there for some winter interest. But also another thing that is really good with these tree branches is that they can also provide some winter protection. So if you have things that you want to cover up that are on the ground or that are in pots, putting some branches over them can be a great thing to do. And I'm telling you this before maybe you've taken down your Christmas tree for good, because what we do with our Christmas tree is reuse all of the branches. We cut all of the branches off before we take it out of the house. It also makes it a lot easier to get it out of the house. And then I use the branches throughout the garden where I think that I need them or for decoration to get us through some of these colder months. This juniper is doing really, really well. No damage from the winter snow or ice, so I'm really happy about that. I'm going to show you guys the expansion of the mailbox bed that we did earlier this year also, just so you can see how it's doing. You can see it looks great. All of the ajuga in there is very deep and dark right now, but that will have some beautiful flowers hopefully in the spring. My front garden bed has done really well with the snow. I've actually been quite surprised and pleased. I thought we would have some sedums that were just flapped over, but rather than flapping over, they're still standing and holding their color beautifully. And it just looks really nice, I think. And I anticipate that as these hydrangeas get bigger, these are the Bobo hydrangea, that I will need to trim these in winter as well. Hopefully not too much, because I really do like the interest that they bring to the front garden here. Now, we didn't have a chance to show you all what I did with my front porch as I decorated for winter, so let's take a peek at that real quick. So the lighting's not great, but here's what we have going on. It looks like the squirrels have been on the front porch a little bit, messing with some of my evergreen branches, but I just love collecting stones and driftwood in the UP on Lake Superior when we go up there. And so I took the blooms from the Schubertii and I put them in here as some fireworks stars amongst the birdhouse. And then we have some beautiful stones. They have really flat stones and round stones and just tumbled stones amongst the waves of the lake. And so I have put those around as well. And I have a beautiful stack down here. Aren't those pretty? Just love those. Our house has a lot of drainage that comes off of the roof up here in the front, and so as we melt, I can feel that the ground is really, really squishy underneath of us. But the garden bed itself is doing quite well, and you can see the hellebores create some nice evergreen interest along with the hollies and that boxwood over there. Oh my goodness, you guys, look at this. I didn't even know this was happening under the snow. Hellebore blooms, the first ones. Oh my gosh, it's so early. So early. Wow. Here's another one too, right over here, that has them popping up through the snow. Or the leaves. Wow, that's crazy. Oh, this one is too. Holy moly. Can you see these? Let me just pull back the foliage a little bit here. Look at all of those. You can see one of them got some damage here from the snow and ice. Hopefully our plants don't get too confused with this warm up. It's supposed to be 56. 56. Just less than a week after we had wind chills of about negative 25. I mean, it was like 10 degrees outside or something like that. But crazy weather changes here. The thing about it is, for your plants, as long as the warm up isn't too long, they won't think that it's spring. But if it warms up for like a week or something like that, we could be in some trouble. Looks like some of my rocks have tried to roll away, or some squirrels moved them trying to bury things. Have to put those back into place. Well, that about does it for my garden tour today. I sure hope that you guys enjoyed this and have gotten some other ideas about how to protect your garden or keep your garden looking good throughout the winter and making sure that it makes it to the spring in good shape. And thanks again for being there and for watching this, and I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, and I wish you all a happy new year. Stay healthy, safe, and warm, and we'll see you next time.